exclusively on the OysterLink Podcast, the fastest growing hospitality job platform in the US. Today's guest is Chef Anthony Jones, shares his journey in the culinary world, discussing his recent James Beard Award nomination, the importance of culinary education and his hiring philosophy. Get ready for a conversation full of insights and career tips. Hello everyone and welcome to the OysterLink Podcast, the fastest growing hospitality job platform in the US. Hello Chef Anthony, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Matt. Greatly appreciate it.
First of all, congratulations on the James Beard Award nomination. I'm guessing this is like the big news these days.
Yes, no, it was. I was very happy when I found out. Definitely some tears of joy.
So to start, could you please introduce yourself and just tell a little bit about your career path so our audience can get to know you better?
Okay. So my name is Anthony Jones. I'm currently the executive chef at Marcus DC in Washington DC. Been cooking for about 20 years now. So starting out in Southern Maryland, next to Chesapeake Bay, basically. Went to culinary school, and then from there just worked my way up around Annapolis, and then eventually coming here into the city in DC, and working in Virginia, and then getting the opportunity to move to Miami and working for Marcus Samuelson. That's when I first met him and worked with him. It was about 4 or 5 years ago, actually now, I think. And that was just a great experience for me to learn, to grow as a chef and as a person. I then ended up moving back up north. Kind of just got tired of Miami. A perpetual summer did get annoying after a certain point for me, because I just missed the season so much and the seasonality. So I just wanted to come back home and do that and be with family. And then ended up working with Marcus again now at the current spot at Marcus DC.
So let me ask you talked about the culinary education. You said you had formal education. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
What's your take on formal education these days? Do you still does it still matter to have formal education? And when we talk about fine dining in specific.
Right. So I personally think that when it comes to education, first off, it's always important. The more you know, the better off you will be. Knowledge is power, of course. But in that same sense, I don't think school or certain structures or curriculums are for everyone. Some people just learn differently. That's always been the case. And I think when it comes to especially culinary school, it is the instructors and the curriculum that's important, but the individual themselves, the students, they are just as important. They have to come in there willing and hungry to learn. I think you can have the most amazing teacher in the world trying to teach you whatever the subject might be. And if you're not 100% invested and committed into it, then even then they might not be able to teach you properly. So I think that it's definitely a dual lane process. It's not 100% the teacher's responsibility. I think the students have a good amount of responsibility themselves. So I went to culinary school because I wanted to go, and that suited me in the way that I learn. But I do know some friends that haven't been to culinary school, and they're amazing chefs doing just as well, if not better. So I think, like I said, it depends on the individual.
We've seen this trend recently where a lot of people would just, try to build a social media presence, as chefs, let's say young chefs, so they can later find jobs based on that, trying to replace somehow the formal education this way. Let's say that you're interviewing someone and you find out that they don't have any formal education, but they just build a presence online. Would you favor that kind of let's say, candidate to work in your kitchen or not?
So yeah, for me, someone's resume is important, but I also want to get them in the kitchen and to see how they work. How they handle themselves, how they work with staff members, and the rest of the kitchen crew, because that can tell you a lot. So if they're just building a presence online or through any social media platforms, I don't think that's the same necessarily. And I think that that's something that can easily be detected throughout the process of doing a stage or just a temp one day or one week process. And maybe they're a good fit, maybe they're not. If their heart's in the right place and they want to learn, then there's room to work with that. But I think that both parties have to be very honest with each other.
Let me ask you, based on the big news recently, since you were nominated as a semi-finalist for James Beard Awards, What is the simplest roadmap for someone to get into the, like, say, James Beard Award semifinalists? If you can, like, go back to your career path, your journey, and highlight the most important milestones that got you to be where you are today, to be nominated, what would you say are, let's say, those very important milestones?
Okay. I would say some of the important milestones would definitely be dedication and hard work. I said yes to more shifts than I ever said no. The first one in, the last one to leave. Always. Like that's how I've always been. I'm naturally competitive. So I'm always going to try and be the best I possibly can to beat myself. But then also I want to be the best working saute, when I was working grill, I was working garma, whatever the case might be. So I always wanted to improve and be better. So I think just having that continuous hunger to improve and to push yourself will lead to greatness in some form of another, whether it's a James Beard nom, whether it's a business deal or sponsorships, like whatever the case might be. I think like hard work and grit definitely helps. And, just taking chances. Like you never know what saying yes to one job, where that's going to lead you at in the future. You just never know.
Amazing. And can you share with us like one lesson that you learned while working with the Marcus Group? Since
Um,
you're talking about lessons like accepting opportunities, one lesson that still like with you until today.
yeah. I mean, work for the group. It's always they're going to keep you on your toes, and you're going to have to be naturally able to pivot because it's the restaurant industry. There's always something going on at every turn, whether it's 120 cover a night and then all of a sudden there's a walk-in 10, 20 top or whatever, or there's a party upstairs and someone forgot to order something and you're out of it, whatever the case might be. So I would say being with the group has definitely taught me how to pivot and do it gracefully so that the guests aren't noticeable. They have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. They just see the end result and they're happy. So I would say being with the group has definitely helped fortify and reassure my mentality of the working hard, staying true to yourself and to your core, and just grinding it out.
Nice. And Chef, what qualities do you look for when hiring, like for your kitchen?
Um, it's pretty broad actually. I mean, I normally want someone I want them to take themselves seriously at the end of the day. But then I also don't want them to beat themselves up too badly. Cause I used to do that a lot when I was a young cook starting out. And there's gonna be mistakes. There's gonna be hiccups, speed bumps, whatever the case might be. And what I always tell the cooks, especially now, is we'll do better next time. There's always going to be a next time. There, no matter what you might think or how bad the day might be, there's still the rest of service, and then there's tomorrow's service. So we just have to do better than we did today. If you keep doing better than you did the previous day, then you're making progress. You're improving. As long as you're improving, things are going to be okay. Things are going to be all right. So that's the mentality I try and look for in my cooks or any of my staff when I hire them. And it helps build a real strong camaraderie amongst the crew because no one's going to let someone else go down. As soon as they're able to knock out their tickets, they'll jump on another station and help someone else out. And that's the mentality that I want to keep fostering in the kitchen.
Then let me ask you the opposite question. Like let's say, what are the red flags that you look for, like during an interview or during like a stage in a
Uh,
potential candidate?
ego. Ego is like we were chefs, we're cooks, we're all very prideful. I have my own issues. But I think it's fundamental that you have to put the team ahead of yourself in most situations, because then in that same mindset, you have to put the guest ahead of yourself as well, because we're in the hospitality industry. It's literally our job to serve. So if you are not okay with that fundamental principle, or if that bothers you, or if it doesn't nourish you, then that could be an issue, because it's a tough job. It's grueling. You don't always get your thank yous and your flowers. So, I want people that are in love with it, that are infatuated with it, because it's very contagious and it's very healthy, and it keeps that drive and that hunger going. So for me, if I have a cook or run across someone who's focused on only themselves and getting their stuff done and not necessarily trying to bring anything to the table or to the team and help everyone improve, then, I think, at least for me personally, in the kitchen that I'm running, that's not the type of mentality that I want. If I'm succeeding, we all succeed. If the dishwasher fails, then I technically failed.
This ego, where do you think it's coming from? Do you think it's social media that's like, building up this ego and everyone, and based on the number of followers or the number of
Yeah.
views, they what?
I think as people, we all have a set amount of ego that we come out the gate with, and then it gets fed or malnourished as time goes by. And I think that there are certain circumstances now that feed the ego more than help keep it in check or in place. And I think that sometimes, as you were saying earlier, some people will try and build up a social media presence and then come into a restaurant and get a job. But then when you ask them to do some of the fundamental basics, like certain basic knife cuts or just terminology and jargon that's necessary in the kitchen, they don't know. And then, my first response is, well, have you read any books? Have you watched any cooking programs? Like, what have you done to educate yourself? Because even if you don't go to school, that's perfectly fine. But you have to educate yourself to be a cook, to be a chef. You don't just make a few omelets or cook a few Wellingtons one day and then, boom, you're a chef. That's not how cooking works.
Let me ask you another question since we're talking about the kitchen. So, what's like the golden rule that everyone has to follow in your kitchen? Your golden rule.
Ooh, no yelling and be happy. Yeah, no, I don't yell. I've yelled before, earlier on, and I've been yelled at. But I feel once you start yelling at someone, at that point there's a serious fault in communication. Somewhere along the path you've gone off track. Because if you're yelling at someone, then you're overly expressing your feelings, and 9 times out of 10 they're not really accepting and listening to what you're saying, because their natural reaction is to get defensive. So, and then at the end of the day, like, if I'm not yelling and getting upset, then I don't want the cooks to have that mentality either. Like, I try and have a healthy work environment as best as I can, because I know what it's like to be in a kitchen where there's so much tension, so much pressure, so much yelling and negativity, and it's not healthy at all.
Many of the interviews before that I had, like, by the way, a lot of them blamed this on TV shows. It's like TV shows that brought the concept of like yelling and made it like somehow something like fundamental, that this is what the bosses would do. This is what like the big chef would do. And that's
Yeah.
why it became something even like in today's world.
Um, I mean, I guess we could blame it on television, or on cooking shows. We could, but at the end of the day, if you don't feel like something's right or you don't believe something's right, then why should you do it anyways? Even if you see someone else doing it, doesn't make it right.
Let me ask you about like the best piece of advice you ever got from another chef. Something that you would like to share with like our audience from the same industry.
Oh, do what you love and love that you get to do it every day. Yeah, I mean, it's very basic and simple. But it's one of those, like, I'm fortunate that I get to work in my chosen career, my chosen field. Like, I'm 100% invested in cooking and the restaurant industry. Like, when COVID happened, I literally had no other skill set, so I couldn't get a job besides something within hospitality. So, at the same time, I am so happy and nourished by this and by that every day, no matter what challenges might happen, whatever might happen during service, whatever bad news might come my way, I still roll with it, get through service, check out with the team. We go do, we do our nightly roundups and one-on-ones and all that stuff. I go home tired, of course, and exhausted. But the next day I wake up fully energized, recharged, ready to go because I'm still blessed that I get to do what I love.
Amazing. Let me now wrap up this conversation with a few quick fire questions.
Okay.
You can answer me with just 2-3 words. Are you ready?
Yes.
So, favorite late night DC spot?
Ooh, for eating or for drinks? La Providencia.
Okay. Best meal you've ever eaten that you didn't cook?
Oh, Claridge's in London.
Okay. Coffee or espresso?
Coffee.
Okay. One spice that is underrated?
Underrated. Peppercorns.
Music in the kitchen, yes or no?
During prep and cleaning, yes.
What about the rest of the day?
If we're in service, the only music should be what's playing through the audio for the dining room.
Okay. Most overrated food trend right now?
I think Brussels sprouts are making a comeback somehow.
Okay. And finally, your cooking style in exactly 3 words.
Bold, flavorful, and rooted.
Thank you so much for this. Thank you. And thanks for being with us today. Hopefully in March we will hear the big news and you will be among the finalists when the final list will be announced for the James Beard Awards. And yes, all the best.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that.